All right, good evening. Welcome to the Urbana City Council regular meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu,
Here.
Mr. Evans,
Here.
Ms. Hersey,
Here.
Ms. Colacetti,
Here.
Ms. Bishop,
Here.
Ms. Wilkin, Mr. Quisenberry,
Here.
Mayor Marlin.
Here.
Okay.
All right, first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of previous meetings for July 25th, 2022. Can I have a motion?
Move to approve the minutes of July 25th, 2022.
Second.
Moved by Sharice, seconded by Jaya. Is there any corrections or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. I don't believe we have any presentations. It is now time for public input. If anybody wishes to address the city council, please step up to the microphone and state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Eldris Melinda Carr, and I'm here with my grandson, Jackson, who I mentioned on last week. He went out with me to do petitions, and so this is a teachable moment as well, going out in 80-degree weather, and people signing papers, and so he can see what this all means, and going before a council and seeing the end result of a petition. So he's here tonight with me, and he's last year he was a student at what school? What school were you? Dr. Martin Luther King. Okay, so I'm here tonight. Last week I brought part 1 of the petition, so this is part 2. There may be a part 3. People have been sick, there have been deaths in the family, COVID, so part 2 of the petition from residents and homeowners of the Dr. Ellis subdivision, and submitted tonight, and then part 1 was submitted on August 1st on behalf of the Dr. Ellis Subdivision Committee to support the Dr. Ellis sewage system discussion presented by Councilmember Sharice Hersey and former Councilmember Robert Lewis. And just want to make a comment from last week. It was an excellent presentation, and just the report of the council and the comments. It was just a great evening to behold the historical moment. And so I just wanted to bring the second part on tonight, and we'll see what next week brings. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You can go ahead and hand that to the clerk if you'd
Can I
like.
ask a quick question? Do you know how many signatures you're up to now? How many total signatures have you collected so far?
Right now, close to 80, I think.
All right, well, thank you very much for your input. Seeing as there's nobody else in the audience tonight, we'll move on to council input and communication. Anybody like to have their 3 minutes? Okay. Unfinished business is next. We have none. Reports of standing committees, there is none, but there is a committee of the whole report from Councilmember Evans.
On behalf of the Committee of the Whole, we'll go to the consent agenda, which there appears to be nothing. Going to the regular agenda, I would like to make a motion for approval, resolution number 2022-08-060R, a resolution authorizing an extension of time for a temporary or experimental traffic regulation, one-way eastbound traffic on Goose Alley from Race Street to 200 feet west of Broadway Avenue. Is there any public works that, okay, they're not here.
I'll second.
Okay, you'll second. Sharice seconds. And
Okay.
is there any discussion?
Chris, it's my meeting.
Oh, wait, okay.
Thank you. Moved by Chris and seconded by Sharice. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, that moves on. Reports of special committees, there is none, and we move on to reports of officers for UPTV issues and coming upgrades. Sanford.
I don't know that I'm an officer, but I appreciate the upgrade. Well, I want to take a few moments to go over some of the issues we've been having with UPTV broadcasts, to talk to council and talk to our viewers at home so that they know the status of where we are and what's coming up. I have encapsulated that in a memo. I'm not going to read you the memo, but I will summarize the parts of the memo briefly. So I just want to emphasize that during the pandemic, we conducted online meetings and had to invent that process as we went along. Moving back into in-person meetings in April was almost as jarring because all of our UPTV staff had changed during the pandemic. So no one was on staff who had ever worked with the equipment that we have for on-site meetings. So we went through a learning process, and there were several issues as well that I will summarize here. The first issue that we've had is with members calling into meetings. The source of this problem is that during the pandemic, we changed out the city's phone system. So before the pandemic, we had a setup that was based with our prior phone system. We purchased and replaced the whole new phone system during, and when we came back to in-person meetings, we were not able to get the new phone system, which uses a different technology, to work with the old phone connection. We purchased equipment at the end of March and put it in place, tried it for about 2 meetings, and jettisoned on that equipment, and actually fell back to where we're conducting calls. For example, Mayor Diane Marlin tonight is calling in, and it's actually running through a laptop, which is then working with our audio system. So that's been a challenge, and we know that the audio on the outbound is pretty poor. The good news is that we can hear the mayor very well, but the bad news is that we sound to her kind of like we're underneath the water coming through a tube. And so people who are going to be calling in on the phone have to monitor the audio with a different format, whether that's a TV or whether that is a live stream. And that can also lead to the feedback issues, where if they have their volume on while they're talking, and we get a feedback loop. So the phone issue has been, I would say, jury-rigged in the meantime. If you saw how we were doing it, you would cringe. We are going out from one format of plug, which is the XLR, and we have a converter, and it's going into a little 3.5 millimeter socket like you would get on a normal headphone that you would have, on your computer or on a small, music player. It's not a long-term solution, but it's working in the short term. So that's the first set of issues are with our phone system. The second set of issues are with the audio in general. So the audio technology that we're using is it's analog audio, meaning that it dials and plugs, as opposed to digital audio, which would have connections that were designed for, sort of sockets. One of the problems we have with the audio mixer is that the connections are poor. If you've ever had, say, a sort of headphone that's failing and you got to kind of pull it in halfway out to really get a good connection from your music player, that's how the audio output is right now. We have to get the plug just the right amount out to get a connection to get a solid audio out. The other problem that we have with the audio mixer is that there's only one type of mix. The mix that it's not designed for a multifaceted environment. It's designed for a simple environment. So the only mix that comes out of the audio rack has all the inputs. So that's one of the challenges that we have, is that when people call in On the phone, the audio that they hear back includes their own voice. So they hear an echo of their voice when they talk because we don't have any control on the mix of the audio. It's just everything. That's the way that these were designed. That's the environment they were made for, and that's all they do. The third set of issues we've had are with the live stream. Now, the live stream is how we send the signal out for people to watch online. Just to emphasize again, during the pandemic, we were using Zoom. So people were actually dialing into the Zoom meeting directly. They were not going through our live stream. Moving back in person meant that we switched back to this older technology. And when I say older technology, I mean older technology. We're running the live stream program on a Windows 7 machine. It is one of the problems that we had early on was that it would actually fill up. And so we had to start doing cleanup before each of the meetings to delete the files that were on there so that it wouldn't fill up and stop working in the middle. We believe that for the most part, we're working around successfully the live stream issues. The live stream is not a great quality. It's a low def quality, but it is currently working. I was watching the township board meeting downstairs. People are watching the live stream, which is wonderful, and we're happy to have other avenues for people to watch the meetings. So I wouldn't say that the live stream issue is solved. I would say, however, that it's stable. So when these problems came up in April, we went, first started looking at what I would say are, sort of Band-Aid solutions, which is some of the things that we've done. At the same time, we started talking about replacing the equipment. Some of the equipment was up for replacement actually in the very near future, for example, the audio rack. Some of it was a couple years away, like the live stream. But what we did is we brought this package together. We started talking to vendors. I will tell you that for those vendors who work in the space, they're very busy these days. One of the reasons they're very busy is that communities all over the country, much like us, have received an influx of cash, some of it ARPA or other sources, and they're using it for equipment upgrades. So there's a lot of activity going on. We were able to get a vendor to agree to discuss our needs with us and come up with a sort of consultative sales approach. Our take on that approach was that if they came back with information that was in excess or we felt like it was too expensive, we would be able to use that output to start a discussion with other vendors. But I'm pleased to say that over the course of several meetings through the month of May and June, we're able to get what I think is a very good proposal from this company called Key Code Media. They do a lot of work in the public access space. We were able to sign a contract with them in July, and they began ordering the equipment. Unfortunately, that's where global supply chain issues have now bit us again. The best that we can see right now is we will have 2 phases of the install. One phase we hope to do in a September-October timeframe. The second phase might be in a November-December timeframe. So that is where we stand right now in terms of waiting for items to be shipped to us. Let me make sure I'm not leaving anything out. In summary, I would say that it's a frustrating situation. Certainly, we don't want to put a poor quality presentation out there. Certainly, we want to support all the desires of the modern age, but I will note that expectations have been ratcheted up by the pandemic about some of these other modes of communication. And so we're trying to meet those needs, but at this point, we're hamstrung by the equipment that we have. I do want to, one note real quickly that I want to thank the extra efforts of 2 members of our team. When I say that no one from UPTV was here before the pandemic, I really mean that. And I'd like to further emphasize that just like in IT in general, there are many different skill sets. And the people on our team have different skill sets, but none of them is an expert on the type of equipment that we have to broadcast the TV. So people from different backgrounds on our team came together. We did a lot of testing, a lot of experimenting, and I really want to thank both Carlos Flores from the IT team and Ibrahim or Burema Wedrego from the UPTV, who put in a lot of extra effort to get where we are today. So I really do want to thank them both for their efforts. Final note, in anticipation of questions about hybrid meetings, I do want to emphasize that I think we need to get these technical solutions in place before we're even able to have, even attempt to do a hybrid meeting. I strongly encourage that we take some of this time, and should council decide to alter the rules to support hybrid meetings, that we work towards the same timeline as the technical solution. So we believe that we'll have the pieces in place by November, December timeframe. And with that, I will answer questions.
All right, any questions? James?
Yeah, thank you, Sanford, and thank your team for us for their work on this. One question I would have is, of the three things that you described that were going on, we've as council had reports of individuals observing the live stream that the audio is muddy or hard to hear. Which of those three issues are contributing to that sound issue for those observing online?
I can't say this definitively, but I'm pretty sure it's the audio rack itself.
Okay.
Some of the audio issues, I mean, you can hear it even in here. There's a little bit of a feedback. We have to turn the audio up a little higher just to account for some of the other issues. So I believe it's the audio rack that's the fault there. And unfortunately, the audio rack is also on the later phase of the shipping. So
Yeah,
those
'cause
issues may not be resolved for
The
months.
reason why I asked that is because on the occasions when I've missed a meeting and gone back and watched later the recording of it, it seemed like the audio was manageable. I could hear it based on how it was controlling my volume, so I had to assume that it was something that was going in the moment that was causing that issue, since we seem to have captured the audio as it was going on.
That's a good point. I'd have to, get more details on the specifics. But when the live stream issues that we've had were in effect, when we saw the issues, it was more of the whole stream cut out and it was down. So there was no live stream at all. So it could be either one of those or a mix of the two.
Yeah, and you do have my sympathy, because in my day job, we have a lot of need for AV support, and that involves contractors, and it is very difficult to get them to do work at this time, not because they don't want to do the work, it's because they have just too much work to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharice?
Yeah, now with UPTV, don't we have partnering with other people? Are they, because someone asked me about PG fees. And I-
PG fees. So,
Right,
okay, it's PEG.
PEG
Public
fees.
Education and
PEG
Government.
fees is what they
PEG
called it,
fees.
yeah.
Those are funds that we get from the Comcast and from i3 and AT&T for the franchise rights that they have to carry cable in our area. That money is we have a UPTV equipment fund, and that money gets put into there, and it's what pays for this equipment. So the money, this is one of the rare times you'll hear me say this, the money is not the problem in this case. We have the money to pay for these items. It's more of in the initial situation was, what do we need? We didn't even know what we needed. And then the second situation is, now that we know what we need, now we're waiting for it to show up.
And another, I know an idea that I had was that, we consult with another entity that actually does also public access TV to a point, and I was thinking it would have been great to be able to have WILL, maybe somebody from their sound people to come in and spec something, and it probably would have been relatively cheaper. But, but anyway, I think that something like this, because this is a first time, there's a first time for everything, and this is the first time that we've had this kind of issue, so it definitely is a learning, a teaching moment, so to speak, also. So if we can just stay on top of this kind of thing, as the hardest thing regarding audio video is keeping up with the updates and what's new and the new connectors and the new, all that kind of stuff. So we will be keeping up on top of this, hopefully, right?
Right, right. The purchase that we're going to make is going to include, they're going to come down, they're going to do the install, they're going to train us. So
Okay.
it'll be a teaching moment for our team to have information. You know, a lot of credit goes to the UPTV staff over the past years, who put us where we are, but unfortunately, you know, like you mentioned, the technology keeps changing. So the whole sense of having an alternate, you know, world of digital video simultaneously with the analog audio was not something that the system was designed for.
Yeah,
And it's just a matter of, you know, technology is advancing and desires are advancing, and we just have to, in this case, replace pretty much everything in order to achieve a modern level.
because everything is digital and analog. Trying to mix analog with digital is not an easy thing. I realize that. Okay, thank you.
Chandra, did you have a question?
Hi, Sanford, thanks. So is it just one $50,000 pot of money, or is, because I'm looking at, it says replacement in fiscal year 2023, plan for $37,000, and fiscal production switcher in 25, $15,000. So that's $52,000, and then like the key code media is $41,000. So is the key code media, is that just consultation, or is that consultation and product?
Consultation, product, install, support.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
so, you know, you're right, the numbers we had originally put in our sort of future year projections were the 37,000 and the
Okay.
15,000. We reduced that from 52 to 50.
Okay,
That was the budget amendment that was passed in May,
right,
and then the ultimate contract is 41,000.
okay.
So
All right.
less than we guesstimated for, but,
Mhm.
you know, that's one of the other aspects of the technology change is that, you know, as things go digital, in some ways they get cheaper. So in this case, we're the beneficiary of that.
Okay, great. And then tonight, to me, the sound sounds great. Like, I'm this far away and I feel like it sounds very loud to me. So was there a difference that happened between last week and now?
We've continued to fine tune the
Mhm.
settings. I really think that's about, actually, to me, the sound is a little hot tonight in the sense that I heard a little bit of a feedback from even the
Yeah.
public mic.
Yeah,
So, you know, we're compensating, but in some cases, it's been overcompensating.
I'll be interested to go and rewatch this meeting to see how the sound compares to before. But thank you for your work and your team's work as well.
Thank you.
Anyone else have questions? No. Thank you for putting this together and working diligently to resolve this issue. Appreciate it.
I thank you.
All right. Well, with no further business before council, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.